There's a version of you looking back at this exact moment, watching the choices you make today, watching the excuses you believe, watching the small decisions that feel meaningless now, but will shape the entire direction of your life. The strange thing is most people live as if that future version doesn't exist. They wake up late, scroll endlessly, delay the work that matters, tell themselves, I'll start tomorrow, and tomorrow quietly becomes next week, next year, and sometimes never. But what if your future self could speak to you right now? What do you think they would say? Would they thank you for the discipline you showed when it was hard? Would they be proud that you kept going when things felt impossible? Or would they wish you had taken things a little more seriously while you still had time? This idea isn't new. Even the ancient Stoic philosophers thought about it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote something powerful in his personal journal. He reminded himself every morning that life is short and time is constantly slipping away. Not to scare himself, but to wake himself up. Because the truth is simple. Time moves whether you move or not. Your future self is being created right now in quiet, invisible ways. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you're building them. Every time you avoid something important, you're building them too. Most people imagine big turning points in life. They think success arrives through one huge decision, one dramatic moment, one breakthrough. But life almost never works like that. Your future is usually shaped in very boring moments. The mornings you decide to get up and work even when you don't feel like it. The nights when you choose learning instead of mindless scrolling. The days you keep showing up even when nobody is watching. Those moments feel small, almost forgettable, but your future self notices every one of them. Think about this. Somewhere ahead in time, there is a version of you who has already solved many of the problems you're struggling with right now. They've grown stronger, wiser, calmer, more confident. But that version of you only exists if you build them. And this is where things get interesting. Your future self isn't judging you. They're not angry. They're not disappointed. They're hopeful. They're watching today with quiet patience, like a coach watching an athlete who has potential but hasn't fully realized it yet. They know something you might forget sometimes. That growth rarely feels exciting in the moment. It feels repetitive, slow, sometimes even pointless. But the Stoics had a different way of seeing this. They believed that meaning in life comes from practicing virtue daily, doing small things well, being disciplined in ordinary moments, not chasing constant excitement, just doing the right thing consistently. Your future self understands this. They know that the person you become tomorrow depends on the habits you practice today. And habits are strange things. They feel weak when they start, almost invisible. But given enough time, they become powerful enough to shape entire lives. A single page read every day turns into hundreds of books. 1 hour of focused work each day becomes thousands of hours of mastery. A small improvement repeated daily becomes transformation. This is why your future self watches quietly. They know the power of these small choices. But here's the part people often forget. Your future self isn't just built through hard work. It's also built through curiosity, through exploration, through moments where you allow yourself to learn, laugh, and experience life. Because life isn't meant to be one long grind. Even the most disciplined people understand balance. Work hard, yes, but also stay curious, stay playful, stay open to new ideas. Enjoy the process of becoming. Your future self isn't asking you to be perfect. They're asking you to keep moving, to keep learning, to keep growing even when progress feels slow. Right now today might feel ordinary, nothing special, just another day passing by. But from a perspective of your future self, this moment is incredibly important because today is where everything begins. Every skill you'll ever master, every relationship you'll build, every success you'll experience, they all start in days that look exactly like this one. So the question becomes simple. What kind of memories are you creating for your future self today? Are you giving them something to thank you for, or something they'll wish you had done differently? The good news is, you still have time to decide. Because the next choice you make, even something small, quietly shapes the person you will become. And your future self is still watching, patiently, hoping you realize just how powerful this moment really is. Let's try a simple thought experiment. Close your eyes for a second and imagine meeting yourself 10 years from now. Not the tired version, not the version full of regrets. Imagine the version of you who actually figured things out. The version who kept learning. The version who built confidence step by step. The version who stayed consistent even when motivation disappeared. Picture them clearly. How do they walk? How do they speak? What kind of calm confidence do they carry? Now imagine sitting across from that person. Your future self looks at you for a moment, smiles, and says something surprising. Thank you. Not because you were perfect, not because you never failed, but because you kept trying when it would have been easier to quit. Because here's something most people misunderstand about success and growth. Your future self doesn't need you to be extraordinary every day. They just need you to avoid giving up on the process. Think about how many dreams quietly disappear in the world. People start learning something new. They feel excited for a few days, maybe a few weeks, but then progress slows down. Doubt appears. Life becomes busy, and suddenly the dream feels unrealistic. So they stop, not because they couldn't succeed, but because they underestimated how long growth actually takes. The Stoics had a powerful perspective on this. They believe the only thing truly under your control is your effort, not the final outcome, not the speed of results, just the action you take today. When you understand this, something interesting happens. Pressure disappears. You stop worrying about whether success will come quickly. Instead, you focus on becoming the kind of person who shows up consistently. And consistency is incredibly underrated. Your future self is not built by huge bursts of motivation. They are built by quiet discipline, the kind nobody celebrates, the kind nobody sees, the kind that happens on random Tuesdays when you'd rather do anything else. Those moments matter more than people realize. Because discipline is actually a form of self-respect. When you show up for your goals, even when it's inconvenient, you're sending a message to yourself. I'm someone who keeps promises. And that identity slowly changes everything. Confidence grows. Skills improve. Opportunities appear. Not magically, but gradually. And along the way, something else important happens. You begin enjoying the journey itself. This is where balance becomes powerful. Yes, life requires seriousness, responsibility, focus, but curiosity keeps the process alive. Ask questions, try new things, experiment with ideas, stay playful with learning. The people who build extraordinary futures aren't the ones who treat life like a rigid rulebook. They treat it like a long experiment. Sometimes they win, sometimes they fail, but they always learn. Your future self understands this deeply. They know that mistakes were never the real danger. The real danger was hesitation. The moments when fear convinced you not to try. Because every attempt, even the messy ones, moves you forward. Think about children learning to walk. They fall constantly, again and again, but they never interpret falling as failure. It's simply part of the process. Somewhere along the way, adults forget this. We start believing we must be good immediately. We become afraid of looking inexperienced, so we delay action. But growth has always required a little awkwardness. Your future self remembers the awkward phase, the early attempts, the imperfect work, the uncertainty. And strangely, those are the moments they appreciate the most. Because that's when the real transformation began. Right now, you might feel like you're still at the beginning of something. Maybe you're building a skill, starting a project, trying to change your habits. And sometimes it feels slow. But remember something powerful. Your future self isn't looking back at the speed of your progress. They're looking back at your courage to keep going. The small efforts you make today may look insignificant, but 10 years from now, they may be the reason your life looks completely different. So the next time you feel tempted to delay something important, remember this simple idea. Your future self is watching, not judging, just quietly hoping you'll realize that today matters more than you think. And the beautiful thing is, the story is still being written. You still get to decide what happens next. Before you go, take a second and think about this question. If your future self could leave you one message right now, what do you think it would be? Would it be encouragement? A warning? Gratitude? I'd honestly love to hear your thoughts. Drop your perspective in the comments. Maybe even write a short message to your future self or from your future self. You never know. Someone reading it might need that exact reminder today. And who knows? Maybe years from now, the future version of you will look back at this moment and smile knowing this was one of the days where everything quietly started to change.